budget deficit of about 901 billion, which is equivalent to about 4.7%. The details will be are there. So, and you can see our GDP is now around 19 trillion. We expect that we should be able to be aiming even much higher. Next slide, please. So, next year's budget, which is why we are here. Next slide. So we expect that our revenues will go up to 3.53 trillion. And of this, we'll have ordinary revenues of nearly 3 trillion, as you see there. And the overall expenditure is at 4.6598 trillion. Composed as follows, you see revenue, recurrent expenditure and development expenditure. So we expect a deficit of 4.9 by end of the year. Next slide. So this is the resource allocation over the medium term, that we will focus on the 5 sectors, that is finance and production, infrastructure, environment and natural resources, social sectors, and then governance and public administration. We have 9 identified value chains which are within better, and those are focused on leather, cotton, dairy, edible oils, tea, rice, blue economy, natural resources, and that includes minerals and forestry, as well as building materials. And our priority is to contain inflation, that is to lower the cost of living, enhance social sector security, manage unemployment, expand the tax base, increase our foreign exchange earnings, and ensure that our growth is inclusive. Next slide. So, CS, this is how of the 4 I think I mentioned to you that we had about 4.6 trillion budget. But we can only, out of that 4.6 trillion, we can only avail 2.8. So where has 1.8 gone? 1.8 trillion is not available because it is going to be used to service debt and other statutory payments like pension. So we can only have 2.8186 trillion available. Of this, recurrent is 1.992929 trillion, while we have about 825.7 billion development expenditure. Education will take the largest share of 27%. Infrastructure will follow with about 20%, and this is to energy, infrastructure, and ICT. Then we have number 3, public administration, taking about 13.5%. The GJLO will take about 12%. National security is taking 10% of our budget of what is available. Health is number 6, taking 5.2%. Environment, water, and natural resources will take 3.7%. Agriculture will take 3.2%. Social protection, culture, and recreation will take 3.1%. And general economic affairs, this is trade, East Africa, community, and others, which will take about 2.2%. We are still going to be using zero-based budgeting, and I will come back to this later. Next slide, please. So, medium-term outlook, the message we have is that we continue to experience shrinking fiscal space. And you can see over time, revenues as percent of GDP have declined. We have lost about 4% from 18 to around 14. And we need to reverse this. So we have to address compliance gaps. We have to look at tax expenditure and see how to reduce tax expenditure. And then we must also look at higher growth in low-yielding tax sectors like agriculture. There are sectors which are difficult to tax. So next. So this is the revenues. You can see the green one is showing consistent increase in revenues. So revenue mobilization has increased, but the point here is the revenues are slowing down in terms of pace of growth. So you can see that red line is showing a decline. So they're increasing, but at a declining rate. Next slide, please. Expenditures are are also increasing. And I want you to draw your attention to the fact that from 2013, 2014, CFS, that is what we use, percent. Today, that has increased from 16.4 to 48.5%. So you can imagine, of whatever we collect from KRA, nearly 50% is being used to serve a state. That is why we are saying shrinking fiscal space. And our development budget is also shrinking. We used to have up to 21% of our budget going to development. Today, we are saying it's 9.2%. Clearly, we need to do something about this to free more resources so that we can be able to do more development. Next slide. So that is how recurrent is shaping up. You can see recurrent is remaining high. Development budget is shrinking. Even county equitable share is also shrinking as percent of the rest. And this is really the point that we are saying, that expenditure has remained elevated in recent years, reflecting sustained government spending pressures despite our efforts to do fiscal consolidation. Next slide. So how does the medium term look like? We want to focus on a number of reforms. So with KRA, we want to do more tax administration measures, and I'm happy to report that CS just about 1 month ago approved additional funding to Kenya Revenue Authority for them to be able to do more of what is required of them to implement the medium-term revenue strategy and other tax reforms. So we expect, therefore, that there will be enhanced tax compliance, enhanced tax base. We are going to minimize tax expenditures. We are going to seal revenue loopholes and increase the efficiency of the tax system. Then we are also working to ensure that we increase non-tax revenues. CS, yesterday I had a meeting with the CS Agriculture, with the sectors, and we agreed to relook at some of the issues. I think there's also a complaint that there are too many levies in a number of areas, so there are things we want to respond to, much as we want to raise additional revenue, but it's also hurting our competitiveness. So the point here is that we want to reduce fiscal deficit and go to running of primary surplus. And I think because of time, I don't want to spend, most of you have been seeing this slide. We keep repeating all the time so that the message sinks with you. Next slide, please. So this is what we want to do on the expenditure side. We are going to rationalize and reduce what we call non-essential expenditures. We will want to prioritize completion of new projects. Please don't budget for new projects when you have old projects that have not been completed. It makes sense to complete old projects before we come to new ones. We will not relent on use of e-procurement. Some of you have been hoping that we can do something. I'll leave that to CS so that CS can emphasize more on that issue of e-procurement. We are embracing more of PPP, so please don't ask for a budget for commercially viable projects, because private sector is best able to do that. And we have a vibrant PPP directorate that is able to process what you require. We have also done a lot of work to unify, to do integration of the payroll system. So we've integrated HRIS with IFMIS and even with iTax and the central bank system. And now we expect that we will be having simultaneous deductions of remittances. So no one should be able to pay salaries without paying the corresponding deductions to SHA, to payee, that is to KRA and all the other deductions. Then we are really doing a lot of more of digitization, and we have already done on the payroll pension management system. So next slide, please. So we will do more. I think we are now in the second year of accrual accounting. Remember, we started last year. We will do for 3 years, shifting from cash basis to accrual. So from next year, we expect that all our financial statements will be on accrual basis. We continue to emphasize that please don't use last year's budget to budget for this year. Let's use zero-based. In other words, forget about what you got last year and just request for what is important for you in that year. Single treasury account is advanced in terms of reforms, and this has helped to improve our cash management. And also, this issue has been coming up. Even yesterday I was with the PAC. People are asking about our asset register and our liabilities. Assets and liabilities inventory need to be improved. So now we have started reforms through IFMIS that every department must have someone in charge of assets and liabilities to be able to be posting on the IFMIS, so that by click of the button you can be able to check what your ministry owns. If you do any procurement, we must reflect that procurement, how much you bought at, what quantity, and all that, so that we have a good asset and inventory management. We continue to do SOE reforms, and last week I think Parliament has approved the GOE bill, that is Government-Owned Enterprises bill, and this will pave way for more reforms to enhance service delivery, reduce more reliance on exchequer by some of the entities. So there will be some mergers and solutions, restructuring and declassification. I think I want to finish here by, next slide please. So our story is here. You can see we have come from a period where we had, if you can show that slide, there were times we had the budget deficit, you can see the red one, 8.1. It even went up to 8.4% of GDP. We don't have the luxury now to run huge budget deficits like those because of what I have indicated. We need to really balance our budget through fiscal consolidation. So enhance revenues, contain expenditure so that we generate a primary surplus. And I think you see that green line, that is what we are expecting, a primary surplus. Primary surplus are expenses, all expenditures minus interest payments, which I have indicated to you that interest is already taking a large component of our expenditure. So this is the story. We want to do more fiscal consolidation to generate, to address debt vulnerabilities through more primary surplus. Next slide. So public debt is something that I have indicated already. It has gone up. We are talking about almost 12 trillion stock of debt. We have worked very hard because of the the progress we made in the macroeconomic development, containing inflation, addressing exchange rate. You can see that as percent of GDP, this has declined from 6.69, about 69, to now about 64. But this still needs to work. We need to still work on it, such that we are able, especially what we call present value of debt, to move from our current level of 63 to 55, which is the desired level, based on the current capacity of our debt, as measured by the World Bank and IMF. Next slide, please. So, CS, there is a good story also about how other CS ratings by Moody's, Fitch ratings, and Standard & Poor, all of them have shown we are good. This year in January, Moody's rated us CAA1 and upgraded our outlook from negative to positive. Fitch rating agency on 25th July this year affirmed our rating at B- with a stable outlook. And the latest on 22nd August 2025 was by Standard & Poor rating agency, which upgraded Kenya's rating from B- to B with a stable outlook. So these credit ratings are crucial because they influence our capacity to be able to borrow from international markets. And we continue to work with IMF and World Bank, and I think soon we will also be updating the nation on progress we will have made with IMF and World Bank. For now, I think that should be. On pending bills, yes, maybe you can address this. We have the pending bills for verification committee, which CS extended its tenure for the last time up to 31st of December. From then on, that committee will cease to function. We will then take everything that they will have verified to, I think, a supplementary budget, so that we plan now to see how to clear the pending bills based, subject to the available fiscal space that will be available. But the intention is really to clear the pending bills. So I think this is the end. The conclusion is that we face a difficult balancing of boosting our revenues to protect critical spending in priority areas while meeting our debt service obligations. So we need really to focus on fiscal sustainability, and I really want to focus on you. Even as you make your contributions, please don't just ask for more resources. Ask also where we can do savings. Where is it that you see also there could be areas of waste, and we can be able to address, because we have a proactive cabinet secretary here who is providing us leadership at the Treasury to make sure that we do prudent management of our economy. Thank you very much.
CS, you know our budgets are also supposed to be aligned with long-term development plans, and we have the medium-term plan, which these are the plans that are used to implement the Vision 2030. And with your permission, CS, allow me to invite the PS for economic planning to just share and give highlights on the link to the medium-term plans to the budget for 26-27. Karibu, Bwana PS.
Thank you very much. The CS, National Treasury, Honorable FCPA John Buddy, the Chairman, Budget Appropriation Committee, Honorable Samuel Atandi, my colleagues, PSS, starting with my brother, Dr. Chris Kipto, my brother Cyril. I also want to recognize the other PSS present. I have PS Isaboke, I have PS Madime, I have PS Hasama, and maybe if I've missed any other PS. Yes. Kimtai, PS Kimtai, senior government officials, development partners, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm pleased, CS, I'm pleased to be here for this launch of the public sector hearing of 26-27 medium-term budget. And CS, we had prepared a presentation, but since in the interest of time, told I can just give brief remarks and then allow you to come and be able to expound on all this. I believe that this consultation process seeks to enhance a space for openness, accountability, transparency, and public participation in resource allocation as enshrined in the Constitution of Kenya and Public Finance Management Act 2012. This consultation also provides a platform for reassessing our resource allocations vis-a-vis our national priorities as articulated in the bottom-up transformation agenda, which is implemented through the medium-term plan 4 of the Vision 2030. This public sector hearing will therefore provide an opportunity for enhanced alignment of sector priorities to national goals, to ensure coherence in planning, budgeting, and implementation. As you're aware, MTP4, which implements better, emphasizes a value chain approach that targets high-impact sectors. In this regard, the government's policy priorities for the medium term upon which this budget will be anchored include, and PS Kipto listed so many of those areas, but I just mentioned a few: increasing agricultural productivity for food security, transforming MSME economy for job creation, providing affordable housing to the populace, enhancing access to health care, increasing investment in digital superhighway and creative economy. CS, I take note that the specific MTEP sectors consultation that have been taking place since you launched this process are aligned and have aligned their priorities in the 26-27 medium-term budget to the medium-term plan. CS, allow me to just point out that as a planning department, one of the things that we have been able to do is to try and interrogate the plan, the MTP4 plan, against the budgets for different financial years, starting from 2023, 2024, financial year 2024-2025, and 2025-2026. The interrogation is simply looking at, in the plan, what was the projected budget and what was the actual budget that was allocated. And by extension, looking at what were the results that are achieved each of this financial year. In so doing, CS, we're just preparing to do our medium-term review of MTP evaluation, reporting, and documenting what works and what does not. Department to ensure an end-to-end tracking and reporting. This is the only way we'll be able to continuously interrogate our plans against our budgets and also the implementation of this budget. It is my hope that our collective efforts will ensure that the 2026-2027 medium-term budget is responsive to the citizens' needs and will deliver tangible results for the people of Kenya. CS, as I sit down, I just want to confirm that yes, like the DG said, whether the planning, whether the budget that is being presented is aligned to the plan that we have, I confirm that it is, because we've had our officers interrogate every step against the existing plan. I want to thank you. Santeni-san.
Let's appreciate PS once more. It's now my pleasure to invite the Honorable Samuel Atandi, who is the MP for Alego Usonga and the Chairman of the Budget and Appropriations Committee of the National Assembly. Karibu Mheshimiwa.
Thank you very much, the PS, Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury, John Buddy, the Principal Secretaries present, led by the PS for National Treasury, Dr. Kipto, and all the others who are present, senior economists from Treasury, led by Dr. Mwenda, Albert Mwenda, and your team, all the stakeholders who are here, good morning. Citizens, who are the stakeholders, to give their views in the budget-making process for the 2026-2027 financial year. And even as we give our views today on what we expect to be included in the budget, we must be alive to certain realities. And I just wanted to mention some of those realities that we must be aware of. One is that our economy is facing some fundamental challenges, which include one, revenue shortfalls. Each and every year, we experience revenue shortfalls. And from the perspective of Parliament, we think that we should be able to raise more revenue as an economy. We believe that our peers in the region, such as South Africa, Egypt, Nigeria, they are raising more revenues, in line with their GDPs. For example, South Africa is doing about over 15% of GDP in terms of revenue. We are doing less. We are doing about 14. We think from the perspective of Parliament that we should be able to raise more revenues, and the economy can do this. We think that the approach that is being employed to raise revenue is not right, and I wanted to challenge National Treasury that in the recent past we have seen, KRA going after small people. There are even some people who have committed suicide in the process of being pursued for taxes. And there's this question of tax expenditure, which the peers has highlighted. And I think we need to be bold enough to be able to address this matter once and for all. There are so many, businesses, there are so many, rich people who are supposed to pay tax, they're not paying taxes because they have been given so many waivers. I think from BPO office in Parliament, budget office in Parliament, we estimate that the economy is losing about 600 billion in terms of tax expenditures. In our view, we think that if this is corrected, then we should be able to raise more revenues, and these revenues will be able to help us even manage the other question of shrinking physical space. We have the other issue of, our physical space is dwindling. We are no longer able to raise more, more loans. We cannot borrow more. Even though I've seen in the 2026-2027 financial year, we are projecting to borrow about 900 billion. Again, that, in my view, is going to be, really huge. So I think the challenge I want to give National Treasury and KRA is that I think we need to be bold enough and be able to raise revenues where we can raise. We are projecting to raise 3.3 trillion in the coming financial year in revenue. I think we can do more. We can do even 3.8 if we be able to address this issue that I've raised, the issue of tax expenditures. I also wanted to mention that each and every year we have revenue pressure which comes to us directly at Parliament. For example, as we talk right now, I have a lot of pressure from Kenyans who want us to confirm junior secondary school teachers to permanent and pensionable terms. I want to urge this meeting that as you work on, these proposals, please ensure that you allocate resources for confirmation of JSS teachers. Those touching on university education, lecturers, because we know the value of education for our children and for the future in this financial year, to ensure that we look at all those challenges, which include JSS confirmation of teachers. I've also mentioned about capitation for schools, which continues to be an issue, where we are saying that we are running short of the agreed amounts to those schools. But also on school capitation, we need to clean up so that we ensure that we do not have any wastages going forward. Now, we don't want to have an elective, than anything else for the economy. So I would like to urge that during these budget hearings, we focus more in our elections. I also have noted that even though we are funding the security sector very well, we are still facing some challenges within the sector. I was talking to the Inspector General of Police, and I was asking him, how come in Kenya the police are not able to control crowds? Because when I see demonstrations in other countries, I see that the police are so well trained to manage crowds, and these demonstrations are actually illegal. So we have to find a way on how we can be able to train our officers. The Inspector General of Police told me that the police officers in Kenya are never trained. The moment they leave Kiganjo, that is the end of their training. And therefore, I think that we need to be able to invest resources in continuous training of police officers so that they are able to address and to live within the constitutional frameworks that provide for things like free, being able to picket, to demonstrate, and we should not be able to see, police officers, using, live bullets on citizens. These are things that we can actually correct if we avail resources to these people so that they are well trained. I want to end, Bwana Minister, by saying that, I'm the only politician in this room now. All of you are experts, technocrats. So I'm the only one who is allowed to worry about what is going to happen in the next elections. If we don't do certain things, I might not be here in the after next elections. So therefore, I would like these budget hearings to focus more on things that are going to touch on our people directly, things like universal health care. If there are challenges in the funding of universal health care, I think this is the forum we have to ensure that we avail enough resources for universal health care. I have also mentioned about ongoing infrastructural projects. The tendency to always start new infrastructure projects each and every financial year is something that we need to dissuade ourselves from, especially in areas where we have, stalled projects, but you find that there's a new project which is being started in the same area. So I think we need to focus more on completing ongoing infrastructural projects across the country before we can be able to start new ones. And even as you meet here to think about what we need to put in the coming budget, please ensure that we think about what is ongoing and how can we be able to conclude them, even as we approach the next election. Thank you very much, members of the public, for coming here. This is not just a forum which is called to meet the constitutional frameworks. I think we are here, to be real in the way we want our budget to be done, and I think your participation here is very, very important. I believe we have members of civil society here, and they are here to give their views on what kind of budget we will need to have. Thank you very much. Asanteni.
Let's give the chairman another round of applause. So we now have reached the climax of our event this morning. We are going to have our chief guest to give us a keynote address and to officially launch the 2026-27 and medium-term budget public sector hearings. That is none other than the Honorable FCPA John Badi Ngongo, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury. Let's welcome him, please.
Thank you, Chris. Honorable Tandi said he's the only politician in the room. But I want to remind him that at least there are two. I am also a politician, by the way. There is nowhere where I did interview with Public Service Commission. I was appointed politically and I leave office politically. Now, principal secretaries and accounting officers present, led by the National Treasury Principal Secretary Chris Kipto and my other two principal secretaries, other principal secretaries from other state departments present, the chairperson of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, members of Parliament or parliamentary committees present, representatives from the development partners, our development partners, representatives from the Commission on Revenue Allocation, private sector leaders, civil society representatives, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. I want to welcome you to this important occasion, which is the 2025 Public Sector Hearing, an event which embodies our collective commitment to shaping Kenya's future through transparent, inclusive, and responsible fiscal governance. This event signifies more than a procedural requirement. It embodies our unwavering commitment to constitutional mandate of transparency, accountability, and public participation in financial governance. The formulation of this budget is anchored in Article 201A, which mandates that public resources be managed transparently and with the utmost regard for the public interests. So the 2025 public sector hearings mark an important milestone in the national government budget making process, which was initiated on the 25th of August 2025 with the launch of the sector working groups. The 2025 public sector hearings are intended to provide all stakeholders and the general public an opportunity to exercise their civic duty of influencing sectoral budget proposals. The proposals will inform the 2026 budget policy statement as well as other budget documents to be submitted to Parliament early next year. Ladies and gentlemen, in a world marked by economic uncertainties, our resilience is tested. The October 2025 IMF World Economic Outlook forecasts a slowdown in global growth, highlighting risks such as policy uncertainty, protectionism, and fiscal vulnerabilities, especially the risks emanating from high public debt levels. Yet, amidst all these challenges, Kenya's economy remains resilient with projected growth rates of about 5.3% in 2025, surpassing regional averages and reflecting not only our resilience, but our prudent economic, fiscal, and monetary policy management. Kenya continues to enjoy a stable macroeconomic environment that is supportive of growth, with all economic sectors recording positive growth rates in the first half of the year 2025, albeit with varying magnitudes. And my PS, Chris Kipto, actually demonstrated to you. You could see, for example, a sector that was contracting a while back, that is mining and quarrying, has picked up and is now growing at over 10%. The other sector that I would want to mention is that of construction. Early this year, the construction sector was actually shrinking, contracting at about 2.9%. Today, you can see the construction sector has picked up and is now recording about over 5% growth. This is not just by accident. This has been occasioned by deliberate policy of the government to settle the bills, the pending bills in the road sector, which had basically stalled the road construction. That decision that we took has already started bearing fruits, and you can see, coupled also with, of course, investment in the housing sector. Inflation remained below midpoint of target range at 4.6% in October 2025, a decline from a peak of 9.6% at the same time last year, 2024, which was 9.6%. This points to positive impact of government policy of subsidizing farm inputs as well as general decline in energy prices. Interest rates continue to decline, and PS actually talked about that in details, with the 91-day Treasury bills rate declining now to 7.9% in October 2025 from a high of 15% a year ago. This has also resulted into lending rates declining, leading to a growth in private sector credit of 5% in September 2025, up from a contraction of 2.9% in January 2025. So in January 2025, extension of credit to the private sector was actually shrinking, contracting at 2.9%, just a while back, 10 months ago. But now, in September, 9 months later, we have seen private sector credit uptake going to now well over 5%. External sector remains resilient, and foreign exchange market has been stable. That has already been captured and covered by PS. Export of goods and services continue to grow, and official forex reserves held by the CBK peaked at US dollars 11.9 billion. In fact, it went beyond that, I think, in the month of October to over 12 billion shillings. billion dollars, which now is over 5 months of import cover. This is up from 8.6 billion US dollars a year ago, which was just 3.8 months of import cover. So, ladies and gentlemen, we project a growth rate of 5.3% in 2026. This positive outlook is based on the result of deliberate policy choices, the unwavering dedication of Kenyans, and a resilient service industry. Our deliberate policy efforts to maintain macroeconomic stability and high business confidence are pillars supporting this growth. Nonetheless, we remain vigilant to domestic risks, including climate-related shocks that threaten agriculture, infrastructure, and food security. We are prepared to respond decisively to safeguard our progress. Our fiscal journey over the past year has been instructive, ladies and gentlemen. The rejection of the 2024 Finance Bill, which is the first one in the history of this country, underscored the need for fiscal discipline, prompting us to implement strict austerity measures. These measures prioritized essential social sectors such as education and health, reinforcing the importance of prudent financial management and resource optimization. We remain committed to fiscal consolidation as a means of containing accumulation of debts, and in this regard, we are targeting to reduce the fiscal deficit to 3% of GDP or lower over the medium term. This therefore means there is a tight resource constraints. It is for this reason that the sector working groups were initiated to keenly scrutinize budget proposals submitted by ministries, departments, and agencies and ensure adherence to the hard budget constraint. So sector working groups are expected to ensure adherence to this requirement during the 3 days of public sector hearings that you'll have here. The draft proposals you will review are crafted through zero-based budgeting, a strategic approach that ensures every expenditure is justified, eliminating inefficiencies and duplications. These proposals align with the fourth medium-term plan and the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, focusing on 5 key pillars, i.e., agriculture transformation, MSMEs, housing and settlement, healthcare, and digital infrastructure and creative economy. These pillars are central to our vision of sustainable development and economic resilience. So, ladies and gentlemen, your role in this process is vital. The sector working groups have finalized their draft proposals, and your insights, whether from the private sector, civil society, or the general public, are invaluable. Your feedback will be meticulously documented and integrated into the final budget, ensuring it reflects the aspirations of all Kenyans. So following these hearings, the sector working groups will incorporate your input into the final sector reports. This collaborative process will shape the 2026 budget policy statement, ensuring that the budget reflects your aspirations and builds a resilient, inclusive, and sustainable future for Kenya. Today's gathering is not merely a procedural event, but a strategic step towards a people-driven budget rooted in our constitutional principles and the collective will of Kenyans. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before I conclude with my final paragraph, allow me just to say a few things off the cuff. If you look at where we were a while back, I must report to the people of Kenya that we are making very good progress in steadying our economy. My colleagues who are here, who have been interacting with our budgets and know about our finances, will tell you that from 2022, when they got into office, and last year when I got into office, the biggest challenge we had was not even about how to manage our fiscal space, but it was about whether we were going to be able to meet our obligations or debt obligations. There was anxiety in government a number of times as to whether we were going to meet our debt obligations. And that anxiety climaxed early last year, when the message or signal that was sent to the market was that we were not going to be able to pay the Eurobond that was falling due in June of 2024 of $2 billion. And so you saw what happened to the economy, including the depreciation of the shilling, which almost lost its footing to 160 over 160 to the dollar. Today, I'm happy to mention and announce to the public that we are not anymore thinking about whether we will be able to service our debts, because that is not the question anymore. The question now is, A, how then do we reduce our debt service costs? The question today is, where and how can we be borrowing cheaply? The question today is, how can we reduce public debts? That is not the discussion that could be held last year. That is a discussion that we have today. And therefore, I'm calling upon all of us, all the accounting officers, all principal secretaries who are managing or helping us to manage finances, that let us employ prudent financial management and reduce wastages so that we don't continue in the same trajectory that has put us where we are today or where we were last year, and which we have not completely come out of. And so, all these reforms that we are proposing, these reforms that we are implementing, you should be champions and ambassadors of these reforms. You should be the first one to embrace the reforms. All government officials kindly implement these reforms for the betterment of this country. The e-procurement should not be a monster. It should not scare you. It should be embraced as an efficient system that would help you in future, even to reduce pressures that you have from people who are calling you to manipulate procurement processes. Because you will have now a reason to tell them that even if you are my friend, there is no way I can help you. This process is watertight. We are implementing Treasury single account. I know it is disorganizing the way things were being done, because the way things were being done was causing inefficiency. It's, however, probably it was rewarding a few of us. But it was not helpful to this country. And therefore, the system that we are adopting today would be of great benefit, not only to us, but even the future generations. They will be very happy with us because we prudently managed resources for them. We are also implementing an integrated payroll system. We have had challenges where accounting officers, you people, you deduct salary of employees to remit the same, either to pension schemes, to pay bank loans, to savings and credit societies, and many, many others. But instead of remitting the same, we have seen where the same is withheld and applied elsewhere. Something that is not just illegal, but is immoral. So this integration of the payroll through human resource management system that we are putting in place is going to help us address some of these challenges. And many, many other reforms. So I am just beseeching you to join this journey, work with the government, work with the National Treasury to make sure that these reforms take root and help us manage our expenditure by eliminating wastages, making prudent, efficient, and effective use of our resources. And lastly, I will also point out this, that government is thinking of many, many innovative ways of financing our infrastructure. You'll agree with me that looking at the numbers, and my peers, thank you very much, Chris, for presenting this. If you are keen in following what Chris was presenting, you would notice that about 10 years ago, we could apply our own resources, 20%, 21%, to develop our country, to put up infrastructure. Today, that has shrunk to only 9%. And if we are not careful, it is trending towards zero. Meaning, for us to develop as a country, for us to have roads, for us to have airport, for us to have water to drink, for us to have energy, we will have to go to other nationalities to get money from them, which come with costs. That is not the way to run a country. We were only spending 16% on debt service through consolidated fund services in 2014. What has happened that today, actually last year, 50% of ordinary revenue, 50%, every shilling that we were collecting from Kenyans in terms of taxes, every shilling, 50 cents was going towards paying loans and interest. Only leaving 50 cents to pay our salaries, to meet recurrent expenditure in terms of operations, O&M, and also for any development. Even to transfer to counties, only 50 cents. Now we are at 48%. We must reduce that percentage. But as we do that, we are also thinking of innovative ways of funding and financing our infrastructure. And that is why this government, National Treasury, has already sent to Parliament Sovereign Wealth Fund Bill. And we are also setting up a fund, National Infrastructure Fund. So all the proceeds that will come from the privatization of state-owned enterprises, the commercially viable enterprises, for example, Kenya Pipeline, we will also privatize other state-owned enterprises. That money, we are not going to spend it in supporting our budget. I want that to go out clearly. We have taken a decision that that money will be put in the National Infrastructure Fund for investment in our public infrastructure, which are commercially viable. And I want to emphasize, commercially viable public infrastructure projects. If it is going to roads, it must be roads that can be tolled. We must dual certain roads, like the road leading to Namanga. We cannot have such an international road in such a state. It must be dualed. We must dual the Mombasa-Nairobi road, highway. We must dual the road leading to our border with Uganda. Even this thick highway, which was a good road, is not now congested. We must make sure that we have major infrastructure done. In irrigation, we need to do 50 dams in this country, costing on average about 30 billion each. Where will we get that money? That money, the 1.5 trillion, must be sourced through putting up a fund that would be used to de-risk these projects and crowd in the private sector. That is the direction that the government is taking. That is the thinking. You cannot do the same thing, the same time, and expect different results. If you get into a position of leadership, a position of responsibility, you must bring change. And the change that we are bringing in the management of our finances is to create that fund, have a pool of resources. We are working to raise about 600 billion to de-risk and crowd in private sector, and we will be able to raise no less than 3 trillion shillings. And then finally, I talked about Sovereign Wealth Fund. The Sovereign Wealth Fund, we have started, you can see, mining, minerals is doing better. But these resources are not limitless. These resources will be exhausted. Our grandchildren will ask us, there was gold in Kakamega. How come you consumed all of it and you left us with nothing? Even if you will be dead, it will haunt you. Some of us who believe in life after death, we don't want to be haunted later after death. So, part of the money that we get from our minerals, part of the money, if we have oil that we'll get from it, must be invested somewhere for the future generations. That is why we are creating the Sovereign Wealth Fund. I know I have spoken longer than I thought, but ladies and gentlemen, I think if we work together, because we have been put into positions of responsibility, When I sign your letter as an accounting officer, I am delegating power to you. Use that power responsibly. So it is with utmost sincerity and a sense of responsibility that I declare the financial year 2026-27 public sector hearings officially open. Let us work together towards a budget that not only meets our immediate needs, but also secures a prosperous future for generations to come. I thank you.
Let's appreciate our Cabinet Secretary once more for those words. CS, if you allow, we can take, maybe you can take a few questions. So we would like, please, in the interest of time, please let's not repeat what has been asked. And also please, let's tell us your name and the institution you represent, and then be very precise so that we can accommodate as many as we can. I see, I'll start on this side. I see a lady there, and then anyone else on this side? Yes, I see the gentleman there, and please restrict yourself to maybe one or two, so that we can give as many as we can the option. Please, let's have a mic here.
Good morning, CS Treasury, Honorable FCPA Mabadi, PS Treasury, Dr. Crypto, PS State Department for Economic Planning, Dr. Makoka, Chairman, Budget and Appropriations Committee, Honorable Atandi, all protocols observed. My name is Yael Hartman. I am Treasurer of the Fertilizer Association of Kenya. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here. FAK represents fertilizer manufacturers, importers, blenders, and distributors. Our request is to zero rate all fertilizers and crop nutrition products, including those under HS code 31 and 38. Currently, fertilizers under Chapter 31 are VAT exempt, which prevents suppliers from reclaiming input VAT, raising costs for smallholder farmers. Essential soil health products are also exempt under Chapter 38. So these include micronutrients, foliar feeds, biostimulants, and organic fertilizer. We request that these and those in Chapter 31 be zero rated to align with the 2024 Nairobi Declaration to support soil health and food security goals. We also ask that you remove the 150 shilling per kilo eco-levy on plastic packaging. The levy would raise input costs by up to 50% and hurt farmer affordability and regional competitiveness. The industry already pays EPR fees, so this levy would be duplicative. In summary, zero rating for all fertilizer and soil nutrition products and removing the eco-levy will lower costs for farmers, support local industry, and reinforce Kenya's regional competitiveness. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bwana Waziri na PSS na all other participants, including government officers and members of the public. My name is Adan Murugu, and I would want to say that I'm a well-wisher in this process. Of course, I've been attending these forums the last 6 years. First, I want to concur with all the speeches delivered by the CS and the two PSS. Bwana Waziri, I'll take you back. We were here on 25th of August, and you gave a direction on sector working groups that the same would actually encompass the direct involvement of members of the public. I would want to read a short list of some of the sectors that comprise with the same. The Ministry of Mining and Blue Economy. I'm happy the PS is here. I also want to note the State Department for Heritage and Culture, and also the State Department of Livestock Development. Equally so, there are sectors that decided to maybe share their reports directly to their stakeholders. So, unlike maybe in the previous years, I was able to access the presentation we are going to have today up to Friday, unlike maybe in the previous years. So, this also confirms that maybe the Mamambogas, the civil societies, are actually fully involved in this one. So I don't want to make a speech. I only wanted to have you take note of that. Nearly 50% was complied with that in terms of the sector working groups involving the public in this process. We'll be here for 3 days, I want to confirm. And maybe our area of focus will be on what is the recurrent and development across all the sectors, and more so on the pending bills. Pending bills, Bwana Waziri, in terms of what is actually legal fees, by the reporting of our last Sunday papers, I saw there was an article where government agencies were actually suing each other. In this matter where KenGen is suing National Land Commission together with KenGen, that is actually not good reporting for me. So this year, I've noted that we are spending a lot of money under pending bills to pay lawyers. I would wish maybe in future when Chris Kipto, because you've been with us for longer than the CS, in future we have legal officers of each of the ministries and State Department attending this meeting. Because under pending bills, we are paying a lot of money to lawyers. So the concern is, do we have competent legal officers advising the ministries? Others will continue losing money. But then, all that I can help you is that I'll sit here together with other patriotic Kenyans to interrogate whatever will be presented. And maybe, in conclusion, I wish you well in this process. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for positive remarks regarding the process of stakeholder consultation. We move over to this side. Any contribution? Yes, I see a lady down there and a gentleman at the back there.
Thank you, everyone, our honorable members of Parliament and our cabinet minister. My name is Christine Yahama from Kakamega County, a member of the Lake Region Economic Bloc. And I'd like to say one of the questions that Waziri, you have said, how are we going to address the debt issue? And I'd gone through the analysis of the CBROF, that is for the 2025, only to realize the government relies on the joint World Bank IMF debt sustainability assessment framework that rates the country's debt risk by comparing the Kenya debt burden indicators against the predetermined threshold levels. In the debt sustainability assessment, as highlighted in the 2025 CBROF, reveals that Kenya has significantly breached most of the debt sustainability thresholds under the baseline scenario. Specifically on total debt, the present value of the total public debt to GDP ratio remains above the 55% benchmark until 2029. The situation is even more critical for external debt, as present value of external public and publicly guaranteed debt to exports solvency indicators breaches its 180% threshold through 2030. Maybe I'll just cut it short because I'll be able to submit a memorandum. My solution to that would be you need to adhere to fiscal discipline, transparent management of public funds, and a sustained effort to curb the wasteful spending. And then there should be strict financial oversight, not just a policy choice, but an urgent necessity to ensure debt sustainability and protect the country's economic future. And on the chair of budget, I appreciate you've given us an example of South Africa, why they are doing well in terms of revenue shortfall. They are doing well because as much as they are paying their debt, they are giving priority to sectors like health, whereby now they are meeting the Abuja Declaration, they're investing in health so that their people are not going to access health services outside their country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christine. There was a gentleman at the back there, and then we can have some responses.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Davis Simiu. I'm just a Kenyan, and I had some input and some comments to make. One comment goes to the chair of the budget, Mheshimiwa. He has talked about police officers not having proper training on riot. And he has said that the Inspector General is the one who said that they don't have a proper training. That is very wrong, because I know police officers have got riot manuals, they have got trainings, and the problem is the caliber of the recruits we take to Kiganjo. Because when you take a recruit to Kiganjo who comes from a rich family or a big family, who is not committed to do the training, then our riot party will not counter the mob. So just go and tell the Inspector General to recruit good people and tell him to train people. Let him not tell us that he doesn't have capacity to give training. And by the way, police officers don't pay school fees, they don't pay tuition fees. Other people in other institutions are paying. Why are you saying that they don't have capacity and then we give them all? That is our question to you. Two, the question goes to our minister over the issue, because he has been talking about issues of how to reduce some kind of actual spending. When you go to police stations, you will see so many vehicles are there, unclaimed property, money and everything. They are treated as exhibits. Some of these things are too expensive, like vehicles. Why can't they look for a way of how to dispose of the unclaimed property that has been like an exhibit, or maybe money has been recovered in millions to go back to the market? So they should look for ways of how to reduce. Kenya is the only police place where you will see a lot of vehicles involved in accidents, in whatever things in the police station. Go to Britain, Mheshimiwa Adanti, you have been doing this. Enda huko uone, hakuna gari utapata kwa police station hata moja. Na hapa Kenya magari imejaa, wengine wanaiba miguu, wengine wanafanya. Why can't we dispose of these vehicles and we take the money back to the government? Another issue comes to issues concerning IEBC and the census. Now we are having this era of computer, we are having the era of artificial intelligence. And we want you to design ways in relation or in collaboration with the Minister of ICT to make sure that during the elections and during the census, we don't want to see Kenyans going to queue the line. We just want them to vote from their places of comfort. You just sit down here and you vote. You sit down here and you are counted as in census. And this is seen in Sweden. Go to Sweden and see. There is no census. Watu wanahesabiwa tu wakiingia hapa, kuna mashini kwa mlango inasema hapa KICC tuko watu 50. Ukitoka mmoja wamebaki 47. It calculates. Why are we not using this one so that we can reduce the cost of watu kusimama kwa laini kuprinti makaratasi mingi? And then there is also lavish spending of money in some government institutions. Mr. Mbadi, I want to commend you because most of the time you want to hold your meeting, you come to KICC. I have seen government departments taking people to very rich hotels, spending 20 million, 30 million per day just to hold a public participation. Even KRA is one of them. And you are saying that we want to fund KRA. When KRA does annual parties at Safari Park, like 10 million, 20 million. Are we reducing the burden or we are increasing? We have to cut those lavish spending and giving per diems to those people who are not even giving any input to the government. Lastly, Mr. Mbadi, I wanted to tell you that we have got a lot of complaints in your pensions department. Your people are corrupt. They don't want to give out money to those people who have worked for the government and they are retired. They stay too long na wanauliza pesa. Na leo ikuwe siku ya mwisho wapeane wale wazee pesa, watu walipwe pesa hao wafanye biashara katika uzeeni. Asanteni sana.
Thank you, Bwana Simiyu, even though you hijacked the microphone. The gentleman at the back there, in a white jersey, he's been raising his hands, and then we have some responses.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa Mbadi and the team from the National Treasury. My name is Agola Jack. I come from Busia County, representing the Lake Region Budget Hub, which is a network under Budget Hub. Bwana CS, I have two concerns. Number one is on the operation and maintenance budget for the government. I think I'll talk about this in terms of what I term as government wasteful expenditure and extravagant spending. I'll give a few examples. For instance, we've seen quite a number of delegations and delegate meetings being held at the State House, where people go there, they spend a lot of money, some like teachers that I think what was the last one, where a lot of money is being spent, but you're not seeing the output from these kind of expenditures. And I think just connected to what the gentleman has also mentioned there, is that we're having a challenge in terms of expenditure. And even as we talk about how we want to look, our budget look like, we're not giving that key note on how government is going to cut on expenditure so that we're able to rationalize our budget. And sometimes back, remember, the president even mentioned that they're reducing the government operation cost by 50%. And I remember even some of the advisors were reduced, but then after some few months, some of these things went back to normal. So how are we going to do this to ensure that our budgets are cutting such kind of cost? Number two is on wage bill. The issue of wage bill is a big challenge, not just at the national government, even to the counties. I think most of the counties are having more than 35% of the wage bill against the PFM requirement of at least 35%. That is a Section 107 of the PFM. And I think this is a challenge even at the national level. So how are you, as the CS, working with the county governments and even at the national government to ensure that you're able to address the high rising wage bill within our nation? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think let's allow for some responses. I think some of the issues you might be having might be responded to in the first round. So we start with the PS National Treasury, Dr. Chris Kipto.
Okay, so I'm just trying to see. Yeah, I think the treasurer of the Fertilizer Association, if we can have your memorandum formally, then we can consider it alongside other proposals which are going to be considered in the finance bill. They are good proposals, but I think we cannot answer that directly right now. I think, was it Dan? Yes. CS, I think maybe I can leave you, so you will handle that. But Christine, you are very spot on the issues, and I think yours was factual. You are reading a statement of fact. The results are there, and I think I like your proposals, and we are in that direction to deal with debt sustainability analysis. We actually are working very hard now to also improve our what we call World Bank CPIA, that is country institutional policy assessment. If you know it more, it's also important in the weight that is used to calculate the DSA, and how we rate the countries from in terms of debt carrying capacity, where Kenya is rated at 55. But it's also possible that if we improve some of those reforms, our carrying capacity could move from 55 to 70. So there are quite multiple approaches we are working on. And other than doing fiscal consolidation, we're also looking at other reforms. Please, I draw your attention to that CPIA read, and next time when we meet, we can discuss more. You're also invited to Treasury, we can have a conversation on the same. David Simiyu, you also, I think I like what I'm hearing about areas to cut on spending. Really, CS, maybe I leave it to you, but they are very good proposals. This is what we are telling accounting officers to really mean to be serious when it comes to cutting expenditure. It is like your house. I mean, if you are running to see one dini kama mali ya umma, it is our responsibility to make sure we manage resources prudently. So, CS, a lot of these are I think the things you can tell us, including the lady with the, I didn't hear the name, but the white sweater. I think, no, the gentleman there. I don't know what. The issues I think I'll leave to CS. The last one is only on the wage bill, to indicate that we are taking action on this. In fact, this week we have a mission from our development partners, World Bank and IMF, who are coming to help us on this matter of wage bill. And we need to really contain the wage bill. The numbers speak for themselves, as I indicated earlier. We don't have a choice. We have to embrace digital solutions to cut on costs. And also counties, I think is an issue also that we are telling them to make, to be sensitive to how many people they bring on board, especially after every election. CS, I can stop there.
Thank you, Chris. I think Chris has addressed the issue of Fertilizer Association and has advised that you could make a formal submission on this. But I can also add that we are really trying to move away from zero rating of commodities. It's not the best way to handle tax matters. Zero rating creates a lot of corruption in the system because those refunds, a lot of them are not genuine or authentic refunds. We are trying to, if a commodity is so essential, to exempt and also exempt the input. So we go down the value chain to exempt the inputs, then the net effect, the results would almost be the same. So that is something that you can propose and we look at. Dan Ruku, you hailed the direct involvement of members of the public in this budget process, but I think we still need to do much more. I want to appeal to all of us who are involved in the budget making process that the policy at the Treasury has changed. We have open policy to the public. Engagement with the public is no longer luxury, it is mandatory. And so anyone who is involved in the budget process, even at the State Department level, we are insisting on proof and evidence of public engagement. It's not going to be tolerated that we talk about public engagement and you don't. On issues of legal costs and how wasteful at times we are, yes, I agree. You even have government departments, State departments suing each other. I think we are going to make it clear that it is illegal for one government agency or department to sue another in court. We have systems within government, especially the executive, to resolve dispute. There are alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. We even have head of public service heading the entire government in terms of civil service delivery. So why would you go to court? And even other arms of government, it is illogical, even from one house of parliament to take another house of parliament to court. And then we now pay so much to lawyers in terms of legal fees. This is something that should not be tolerated. Going forward, government departments must use internal mechanisms to resolve their issues so that we avoid on wasteful and unnecessary expenditure. I think this is Christine. I think PS has addressed you and has answered you, but we are also, as PS has put it, that debt sustainability question. Presently, what is in place is that Kenya should have 55% as debt to GDP. which we are not realizing because we are still at 64, but we have up to 2028. We will move towards that, but we may not realize it in 2028. But there's something that we are working on because we think as a country, our debt sustainability or debt carrying capacity has been undervalued. And we are working on that because the numbers show that we can carry more debt. But that does not mean we are calling for irresponsible borrowing. But we are able to carry more debt than the 55% to the GDP. So those are things that we are looking at. But in the meantime, we are working towards realizing the 55%, which is in our fiscal framework. Health, investment in health by South Africa. I agree with you that South Africa has invested a lot in health. But even Kenya, we are investing a lot in health. Don't just look at the national government budget and conclude that that is what we have allocated to health. Health is largely devolved. And so if you put in totality the aggregate of all budgetary provisions for health, national and county government, you'll realize that our percentage of resources going to health is much higher. But that does not mean that we have reached where we can confidently say that we have put enough resources in health. We are still moving, and progressively we are adding more resources. You can see we have gone into a very ambitious program of universal health cover. And some people are fighting this. But I will tell you, any country that wants to progress must make sure that they treat the sick among us who cannot, and they are the majority, who cannot afford Medicare. By the way, there is nothing as expensive as health provision. And at individual level, if left on your own to take care of your medical bills, it is almost impossible. Many of us who are in formal employment, we may not understand this because the government is shouldering a lot of health budget for us at personal level. But I will tell you that a country must think on how to care for those among us who cannot care for themselves. And the diseases have become very stubborn. Nowadays, those diseases which were considered as lifestyle diseases like cancer, like diabetes, like blood pressure, is no longer a preserve for the lifestyle people, the rich. You find cancer has permeated to our villages, even the most poor, and they can't afford it. So our government is committing itself into putting more resources. And challenges will be there. Sure, we'll have challenges and all that. But going forward, we must just be resilient and persistent in putting more resources there to provide primary health care to everyone and also support emergency, chronic, and critical illnesses. And we are putting a budget to that. On training of police officers, I agree with you, Simiu, partly, that yes, our recruitment of police officers should be above board so that we get the right people. But we must also agree that if you read our constitution and the legal statutes that emanated from it, we had planned to retrain and continuously train our police officers. How many times do we take our police officers for further training? We don't. Once they get out of Kiganjo or whatever, that is it. They are given guns. They go to police stations. They are given OB books. And with no much regular training on even human rights and how to manage riots and deal with difficult situations. By the way, I will tell you, if police officers who have not been trained on how to deal with riots kill so many people, that's why when there is a riot in some countries which have not dealt with riots, and I will not mention which one because it may bring a diplomatic issue. You know, you have heard of recent events where some countries which have never dealt with riots, it is problematic. Much as we complain about the police excesses in Kenya, just look at elsewhere. Just one day of demonstration, you may have casualties in hundreds, and that is not something that we would want to happen here. So we want our police officers to be trained properly to deal with civilians, because that is why they are employed. They are employed to deal with civilians and make sure that we are secure internally. Vehicles all over, that is a point noted. That is something that we need to work on. IBC using IT system I can't agree more. The only thing is, sometimes I ask, when I see the way Americans conduct their elections, where someone marks his ballot paper and posts in a post box, and it goes somewhere, then opened and counted. Can that be accepted in Kenya? Kenya, where we doubt anything and everything, even things that we physically see, we still doubt. In fact, some of you even doubt whether I'm the CS National Treasurer. That is Kenya. Kenya, people will say, was that the real one or that was a fake one? You know, so I am not sure whether it can work here, but maybe with the time, progressively, as we build confidence in our institutions, it can work. But presently, I will tell you, let me leave it there. Lavish spending on hotels, I can't again agree more. We are spending unnecessarily. Where you find meetings that can be held in boardrooms of our offices, we take to Naivasha, we take to Mombasa, yes, you are growing the economy by spending in those hotels. But again, in terms of prudent use of public resources, if you can avoid wastage of public or use of public funds where it can be avoided, the better. I'm not saying it is misapplication, but you could use those resources better. You have complained about pensions department. How I wish some of these people who are giving bribes to our pension department could come forward to me so that I can deal with some of these officers in my ministry if they are taking money to offer service. Pensioners are people who are tired, they are going home. You have a salary and you still want to take money from them. I tell you, some people I think are crazy. Hata kama ni kuiba, si utafute mali pengine. How do you steal from a 60-year-old who is going home? How do you steal from someone who is desperate? He's not even going to get 40% of what he used to earn or his last month's salary. So please, instead of just generalities, kindly put forward some of the evidence, and we deal with some of these people. Jack Agola, you are spot on, but you are also political. So I will answer you both technically and politically. On wasteful expenditure, I agree. There's a lot of wastages. As to whether we should have meetings in places where we can afford, correct. But again, can I ask, you have criticized teachers going to meet the president at State House. Did you want the president to host them in Mombasa in hotels? State House is cheaper. When they go there, we are not paying anything for their conferencing. And the president must also talk with the teachers. How can you be president who does not talk with these people? You want him to sit there at State House alone. He will die of stress. So the president must engage with Kenyans. That is what we need. Either at State House or at a cheaper place. If public rally can do it without, public rally, unless some people decide to pay people to attend rally, there is no expenditure. You just drive and people come and you talk to them. State House also, we don't pay now rent. We are just renovating it. So if president hosts people there, in fact, you should call for more people to be hosted at State House to engage with the president, rather than being hosted in big, lavish hotels where we are going to pay more. So I don't know the problem you had with the State House hosting teachers, and you singled out teachers. Why teachers? There are people who have been going to State House, many of them, including politicians. Next time you give example. Give example of other people. Wage bill. Counties having even, yes, wage bill is a problem. And this problem must be confronted. First, I think we have bloated government. We created devolution. We still have staff at the national government level. We have staff at the counties. And the counties are not helpful at all, also in this, in curbing or reducing wastages. Why do I say so? A governor comes in, finds officers in office, finds ward administrators already employed, village administrators, And because the governor wants his people or her people to also be employed or to start earning a salary, hangers on, people who are following us all over the place as we were campaigning, they want them to be in the payroll because they cannot sustain the handouts that they used to get from him or her when he was campaigning. So what do? They redesignate the ward administrators, village administrators, and make them director of what? Director of this, director of Balaboda, director of music, director of culture. The person who is put director of culture does not even know how to read. Now, after making them directors, then he employs others to be ward administrators, village administrators. Before you know it, our counties have become employment bureaus. And the same is happening with the national government. Yesterday, I signed a letter stopping one university from employing staff without even asking anyone. And you see the problems we have in our public universities. They cannot even sustain and pay the staff they already have in the payroll. And you will see them employing people. And if you check, you'll find they are employing people because some of their relatives want a job. If we start using our offices to employ our relatives, what of those whose relatives are not in these offices that we occupy? The jury is out there. My last comment is to manage our salaries. We have also to do away with the ghost workers in our payrolls. And there are many. They are all over the place. That is why integration of the payroll is very important. We have started with the national government. I think end of this month, national government's payroll will be integrated. But we are moving to counties as well. County assemblies are ready. County executives don't want to be ready. They are resisting because they know they are the biggest culprits. But we have told them there is no choice. You will have to integrate your payrolls so that we eliminate ghost workers. We don't double pay people like it is happening. The same person has different bank accounts and paid salaries 3 times, twice. Those are things that we must eliminate because we don't have that luxury. There is no money that we have. Someone spoke, not it was someone, Chairman Budget actually spoke about budget to education. We are really trying. If you look at the numbers that Chris has just presented, you'll find that we are already at 27% in terms of financing education. 27% of our budget goes towards financing, way above the threshold. But then, still, education is something that is so critical and cardinal for the development of this country. And we need even more resources. We have added resources to Higher Education Loans Board in this financial year. It was higher than it was in the previous financial year. But in terms of capitation, we discovered there were challenges because the amount that was being provided in the budget was not enough. And we are already working, the Ministry of Education has already computed numbers, and they are also cleaning the register so that we only finance children who exist, not children who are in the minds of some people who are fleecing us. So we are going to rationalize capitation so that we make resources available to take our children to school, rather than living a lie that we are funding you and yet we are providing less resources. But then, on the issue of employing teachers, this government has employed the highest number of teachers in just 3 years that no any other government has done. But we are still committed to employing more. I can see JSS teachers are very unhappy with the policy that the president gave, that we are after they do internship for 2 years. They want to do only 1 year and then get confirmed, which is okay. And they're saying 17,000 is like slavery. Yes, 17,000 ni kidogo for someone who has trained for years. But there are people who are getting 0 also. There are also other people who have graduated from the College of Agriculture, from other campuses, and they don't even have opportunity to have internship. At least for education, we have created avenue for internship for 2 years, then you are converted to P&P. The others don't have that luxury. So it is not something that, even as you push, please push also with a kind of a language that all of us will finally agree I wish we had all the resources, because we need 12 billion to confirm the 20,000 teachers. That 12 billion may not be available immediately, but we have committed ourselves as a government that if you are intern for 2 years, we will not subject you to another year of internship. We will now convert you to P&P. And then we recruit others. And then we recruit others, and by the end of the day, we'll have enough teachers in our schools. And those who are coming from college as teachers also get opportunity to serve this country when they still have the energy to serve it. It does not mean we are irresponsible, that we are not listening to our JSS teachers. We do. And please, we will do all it takes to make sure that we make your teaching environment better and your welfare is taken care of. That is where I wanted to end. And thank you very much for listening to me. And I request that I don't come back here, that the rest of the program now can be run and picked up by my team. Asanteni sana.
CS, if you allow, maybe because you've now launched our process for the next 3 years, I just wanted the Director of Budget to just clarify the program for the 3 days, maybe 2-3 minutes. Director Budget, our Director Budget is Eunice Kigan. She will provide the program for the next 3 days.
Thank you, CS. Just to confirm our program for the next 3 days, we'll be here from today up to Friday. So immediately after this official launch, we'll have the presentation by the sector of agriculture, rural and urban development that will make their presentation just shortly. And then in the afternoon from 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m., we'll have energy, infrastructure and ICT sector making their presentation. And then at 3:45 to 5:15, we'll have the education sector making their presentation. Tomorrow, we'll begin with registration from 8:30 to 9. And then we'll have the health sector making their presentation from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. And then from 11 to 12:30 p.m., we shall have the general economic and economic affairs sector making their presentation. In the afternoon from 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m., we'll have the presentation from the governance, justice, law and order sector. And then we'll have a break for the day. Then on Friday, we'll start with the registration also from 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. And then the presentation will kick off with the environment, protection, water, and the natural resources sector from 9 to 10:30. From 11 to 12:30 p.m., we'll have the presentation by the public administration, international relations sector, and then we'll end our presentations from 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. That is a presentation by the social protection, culture, and recreation sector. All the presentations will be made by the sector chairpersons who are the accounting officers in the respective sectors. Thank you.
CS, this now marks the end of this session. We want to thank all of you for joining us for this session, and we wish you fruitful deliberation in the next 3 days, and we look forward to the reports and the outcomes from the sector conversations. We thank you very much. Good afternoon.